Hello, and welcome to the first episode of eStory, which doesn't mean the history of video games, but the history in video games. History can be defined in a number of ways, but one of the definitions in the Merriam-Webster's that caught my eyes was this one: a chronological record of significant events, as affecting a nation or institution, often including an explanation of their causes. What this means is that history should be the recollection of what happened in the past. The first definition of history with a small h would be tale or story, which will have its importance in our videos, but we'll see about that later. History, finally, is defined as a branch of knowledge that records and explains past events. What historians nowadays, such as me, well, at least historian student, try to define as scientifically as possible, because history should, in an ideal world, be objective and based on scientific method. To understand further what work I'm gonna undergo on our lovely video game, we need to define another notion: culture. Culture is defined as the integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. I know, this definition sounds like a riddle, but it's very legible if you think about it. Culture is what we integrate in our minds as knowledge, beliefs, and behaviors inherited from earlier generations. This pattern is of course dependent on a number of factors I won't explain too much, but that includes the environment you live in, your level and quality of education, and your capacity to learn. Of course, I'm not saying that culture can be quantified, just that the culture you have is defined, at least in part, by those factors. Now, if you followed me up to that point, you know the definition of history and culture. This vast base of knowledge influences our everyday life, the way we look at the world, the way we behave with others, the way we even shop or have sex. And of course, it influences greatly our work, and art is the fantastic fertile soil for culture to prosper and progress. Our books, movies, paintings, and video games are influenced by the past and the present, and at the same time, they add to the pre-existent culture, influence from others, and that will influence others. It's a loop of ever-changing thoughts and opinions. Video games are part of this process, and I'm gonna show you how. You know what? Let's talk about video games. You know the main thing you are here for. Video games may very well be the first artistic medium across the whole history of mankind that adds one tiny element, an element that has even pushed scientists to do psychological and cognitive experiments on gamers because of its importance: interactivity. When you read a book, the difference between a good and a bad book is, for at least for most people, the notion of immersion. Can you imagine the universe the writers tell you about? Can you see characters and their unicity? Can you understand what they think? In the case of a book, though, you are only a spectator that is free to imagine but can't become the actual character. With video games, interactions added a new layer of immersion, a layer going thicker and thicker as we develop new technologies like virtual reality and augmented reality. For most games, though, what piqued my interest is what inspired and influenced the creators of their universe. Did they invent every name? Did they have a specific tale or era of history in mind when they created their games? That, my friend, is why I'm here today. I know, it has been a long introduction, but stay with me for a bit more time as we get to the really interesting stuff. What I want in eStory is show you every piece I can find out of cultural influence in a game and bring it in the light. For example, let's take Skyrim. It's one of the games I've played the most in my life, with roughly 2000 hours on it, and I found out in my explorations that a lot, and when I say a lot, it's a lot of things, that are being taken from historical and cultural references. Take the region in Skyrim named the Pale. Pale was actually the name of the region controlled by the Normans when the English government in Ireland from the 12th to the 16th century.
a region placed at the east of the island, surrounding Dublin and engulfing part of the current County Kildare. This then brings another question. Did anything else in Skyrim come from Ireland? And yes, there is. For example, the fact that the Nords, are they Viking or Irishmen? Actually a bit of both. Fight against an empire. Even though the British Kingdom didn't become an empire before the late 17th century, a time where Ireland wasn't that much resilient, after the defeat during the War of the Three Kingdoms in 1649, one of the longest periods of civil unrest in the British history. The empire itself, in the World Elder Scrolls series, calls back to the Roman Empire, with slightly different armors and a somewhat lacking sense of strategy, I agree. I mean, even their camps are unorganized, and the way they manage the situation in Skyrim is as questionable as the way the Roman Empire misread the situation in the German territories. Misreading that led to the Varian disaster, in which they lost 3 entire garrisons. Oh wait, that was the Republic in 9th CE, not the Empire. Whatever, it's near enough. Now this of course is only the very surface of what is in the Elder Scrolls culture origins, the tip of the iceberg if you see what I mean. The fact that the ancient Nordic runes are close to the Ogham signs used in the early medieval period in Ireland doesn't come as much as a surprise, nor the fact that the Halls of Valor in Sovngarde are near in appearance and lore to the Valhalla, the mystic resting place of the Viking warriors, guarded and run by the Valkyries, the choosers of the slain. Which means by definition, what you do at the end of Skyrim is a blasphemous sacrilege for a Viking. But at the same time, what Alduin does is way worse, so, I guess you're forgiven. Anyway, eStory is gonna be a series about my two passions, video games and history, and it's gonna be awesome. I'll try to make this series a weekly or bi-weekly thing, but I can't make any promises after the first 3 videos. Thank you for watching, don't hesitate to hit that like button if you liked, and if you didn't, well, leave a comment to tell me why. By the way, I excuse myself for my very French accent that I usually don't have, like outside of recordings, but it's fine. And I know that there is other kinds of shows like, Gajin Guba with his culture shocks, for example, that does a bit of the same kind of videos, but I'm gonna do my thing and gonna be awesome. So anyways, I'll see you next week in the halls of history.